Good morning. Hayom Yom, Vuv Nissan. When the Friediker Rebbe was in Riga, he received a letter from a rabbi in Brooklyn. The rabbi wrote how he felt like he was being ineffective and unsuccessful at affecting his community. And he asked the Friediker Rebbe for some advice and perspective. And the Friediker Rebbe wrote back to him a letter, and today's Hayom Yom is taken from that letter. The Friediker Rebbe wrote to him that experience has shown us that the less chakiras, the more successful you'll be. If you get out of your head and stop overthinking everything, you'll be more successful. Because obsessive thinking cripples a person from taking decisive action. Rather, come up with a game plan, how you want to proceed, how you want to affect your community, and then pursue that with purpose and determination. And then you'll be successful. Now, the Friediker Rebbe told him that whatever game plan and approach you take, obviously it should be in line with the approach of Torah of Yamin Mekareves Usmal Decha, which literally translates as draw people close with the right hand while pushing them away with the left hand. And what that means is that anyone who's in a position of authority, if you're a father in charge of a family or you're a rabbi in charge of a community, it's obviously your responsibility to call people out on bad behavior. You have to say no to negative and inappropriate behavior. You have to tell people off. But don't totally reject people. Don't be overly harsh. Don't do it in such a way that people will be scared away forever. Even when you need to tell people off, even when you need to do small decha, even when you need to put people in their place, there should always be the underlying Yamin Mekareves. Do it in the gentlest and kindest way possible. Kind of like the English saying, say what you mean, but don't say it mean. And this is the Torah approach, how you should influence your family, your friends, your community. And actually, this line, Yamin Mekareves Usmal Decha, actually comes from the Gemara, comes from the Talmud. The Talmud says every person, whoever you're trying to influence, should always do this, should always be Yamin Mekareves Usmal Decha. And the Talmud tells us two stories where two great rabbis didn't do this. They totally rejected people. They totally pushed people away. They were very harsh. And it led to really catastrophic results. The first story is from Tanakh, is from Malachim. Over there's basically three main characters. There's Elisha, there's his student/servant Gechazi, and there's the Syrian general Naaman. Now the Syrian general Naaman had leprosy, he had saras, and he didn't know what to do. A Jewish girl captive told him that there's a great rabbi Elisha, and maybe he could help him. So the Syrian general Naaman traveled to Elisha and asked Elisha for help, and Elisha did indeed help him. And Naaman was so thankful, he offered to pay Elisha a lot of money. But Elisha said, no thank you, it's fine, and he left. Gechazi was a little bit greedy, so he chased after the general and told him that Elisha had changed his mind and he actually does want money. So the general paid Gechazi the money, and then Gechazi took the money for himself. And when Gechazi came back to Elisha, Elisha saw that Gechazi had some saras on his head. He had caught some leprosy from Naaman. And immediately Elisha understood what had happened. And he was so disgusted by Gechazi's greed that he immediately cursed Gechazi that him and all his descendants forever should always have leprosy, should have saras. And on the spot, Gechazi turned white with leprosy. And Gechazi was so turned off, was so rejected, was so hurt, that he ran away to never return. And he did terrible things. So that's story one. Story two is from towards the end of the Hashmona'i period. So one of the last Hashmona'i kings was Alexander Yanai. And at one point, Alexander Yanai turned against the rabbis. He turned against the Chachamim. And he started massacring all the Chachamim. So all the Chachamim basically had to flee the country, with the exception of Shimon ben Shattach, who was a brother-in-law to the king. He was brothers with the queen. So he had that protection. But everyone else had to flee. And one of the main rabbis, Yehoshua ben Perachya, fled to Egypt. And after the crisis had been averted, Shimon ben Shattach sent a message to his friend Yehoshua ben Perachya telling him, you can come back now. So Yehoshua ben Perachya started going back to Israel together with his students. And on the way, they stopped in an inn one night. And even though they were refugees and they were strangers, the hostess in the inn knew who they were, and she treated them really kindly. She really took care of them. And she was taking care of them so well that Yehoshua ben Perachya said about her to his students, he said, she's really nice. Meaning she's being really nice to us. But one of his students misunderstood him, and he thought that he meant that she's really nice looking. She's really pretty. So the student commented, he said, no, she's not so pretty. Her eyes are too round, which wasn't considered attractive by their standards. And when Yehoshua ben Perachya heard this and he understood the thought process of a student, he was so disgusted, he was so turned off with his student and that his student had this dirty mind, that he immediately excommunicated the student and kicked him out. Now this student hung around for a while and tried to get back in and tried to ask for forgiveness, but Yehoshua ben Perachya for a long time couldn't bring himself to forgive him, and he kept rejecting him. And then one time the student decided, this is it. I'm going to try one last time. And he came into Yehoshua ben Perachya to ask forgiveness. And actually, Yehoshua ben Perachya had decided that he was going to forgive him. But right when he came, to his bad luck, Yehoshua ben Perachya was in the middle of saying the Shema. So he wasn't allowed to talk. So he motioned with his hand, come back later. But the student took it to mean that again he was being rejected. And he was so fed up, he was so rejected, he was so turned off that the student left to never return, and he started serving idols, and he had a terrible, terrible influence on many, many people. And it was a terrible end, and he never came back. So from those two stories, the Talmud tells us that while you have to be harsh sometimes, while you have to tell people off, while you have to put people in their place, never be too harsh, because that backfires. That leads to bad results. So the Friediker Rebbe told him, so obviously this should be your approach in the strategy you come up with to affect your community. But whatever approach you do come up with, pursue that with purpose and determination, and then you'll be successful. That's how if you just do, then you'll be successful. And you'll definitely be successful in inspiring people about the fundamentals of our faith, the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit. And then one more point the Friediker Rebbe told him, which is in the letter, but it's not here. The Friediker Rebbe told him, don't underestimate the value of having an effect on one person. If you really, really change even one person's life, that's huge. Especially since that one person has an entire family, which will be greatly affected if that person is changed. And then that family is a big part of the community, and many, many people around them and many people in the community will be affected by them. So that's what the Friediker Rebbe told him. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.